holy place for our heart in this season. It's nice to feel the special feeling that comes when we join together and sing and remember the holiness within our hearts and within each other. Sometimes this season, with all its craziness and all its activity and hustling and bustling and buying and seeking out the right gift and the right deal, especially I like to get good deals. Well, it seems like we spend so much time now with Christmas around the cookies and the gift buying and all the music and all those things that we've forgotten what incarnation is all about. And so today we want to spend a little time thinking about incarnation. And whether you believe literally that God came to earth in the form of a little baby and lived among the people for 33 years, as many believe all over the world, or if you think of this story more figuratively, as many people do in this church, the idea of God doing such a thing, coming down to earth to live as a human being, is an unbelievably inspiring and hopeful idea, no matter how you think of it. Sometimes I think we've heard this story so many times since we were little kids, year after year, that it's sort of lost some of its luster, some of its meaning. At this point in our lives, we just sort of go on autopilot as we start hearing about the incredible story, which is full of so many surprises. So this morning, we're going to try to recall that story, how incredible it is, how unique it is, and we're going to try to tell it in a slightly different way. I'm going to invite Dion Lambert's going to come up in a little while after our prayer. Louie and I are going to do a little Christmas moment, a little pageant, if you will, of our own up here to try to embody the story with some humor and some fun, but so that we can maybe begin to see it in a different way. Because I'm inspired by my colleague, Reverend Barbara Rhodes, who asks, imagine, if you can, a time when year after year and generation after generation, men and women bowed down humbly and helplessly before the might of kings and emperors and czars and dictators and chieftains and tyrants. And then suddenly, you start to hear a story in which three kings kneel down before a tiny little baby born to a poor family, and three wise men kneel down before a tiny child in praise of possibility. I mean, just imagine, if you can, that after enduring centuries of long wars and bloody battles and heroes slaying their enemies, bombings and burnings and persecutions and pogroms, that you one day, all of a sudden hear a story unlike any other story, the story of a humble birth, the story of a simple carpenter and his gentle wife, of shepherds in a starlit field and animals in a stable, the story of the deep human longing for peace. Imagine that you're hearing this story for the first time. A story which questions the assumption that power resides in armies and armadas and in witches and wizards and magic swords and sacks of gold. Imagine that one day, that one day when people started to tell a story that affirms the power of love in everyday people to change the world. So, with a little help this morning, we're going to bring you a little bit of that ancient story in a new way, perhaps so that we can see it afresh with new eyes.
We take you this morning into the heavens, to a special cloud where the angels dwell, where God has his main office. The time is a few days before the birth of Jesus. But nobody knows what's about to happen, not even God. Down on earth, humans are partaking in the usual array of transgressions. Pride and covetousness, lust, envy, gluttony, anger, sloth, lasciviousness, oppression, betrayal, war, and deceit, just to name a few. God is beside himself, not knowing what to do. His angel, Gabriela, or Gabby as she is known around the office, is in his office trying to cheer him up.
What's the matter? God, you look awful.
Oh, Gabby, I haven't been sleeping well. I feel like a failure.
How can you be a failure when you're perfect in every way?
Well, that's just it, Gabby. These human creatures I created, I just can't understand them. I've given them intelligence. I've given them reason. I've given them an ability to create and to love and to feel joy. I've given them bodies with which to swim in the ocean, to feel the warmth of the sun, to make friends and make love and to take in the incredible bounty of existence. But all they do is fight and cheat and lie and grab power and hate. It's enough to make a father cry.
Wait, knock, knock.
Huh?
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
I don't know, I just don't want you to cry, because the last time you got depressed and cried over humanity, you almost wiped out the whole creation project. Oh. So, listen, I got an idea.
All right.
The only way you're gonna fully understand humans is if you become one for a little while.
What?
Yeah.
Are you kidding? Me? Become human? I couldn't do that.
Why not?
Besides, who would run the universe?
Hey, look, you haven't taken a break since the seventh day. After you created the world, everyone needs a break sometimes, especially someone in a job as demanding as yours. You need to take care of yourself so that you can take care of anyone else, right? And that's the whole reason you created the sabbatical, remember? You know, you go away, you learn a little bit, and then you come back even better than you were before. And some people write books on their sabbatical. The first 5 you wrote, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, they were a big hit with the tribes of Israel.
They were, weren't they?
They were. And, you know, you could write a book. And this next one could be an intergalactical bestseller.
You think so? Man. Well, listen, maybe you're right, Gabby. I mean, maybe me having a chance to walk around and feel what it's like to be human would help me be a more well-rounded deity. Mm-hmm. Okay, so just for the purpose of conversation, let's imagine that I do go down to Earth and I take the form of a human.
Yeah.
Do you think I should materialize at about age 50? I mean, that's an age when people might take me seriously, and, you know, there's no time to wait.
Yeah, they also might take you as having a midlife crisis. Plus you need to experience what it's like to come here from the beginning, like being completely dependent, like a baby. And, you know, you definitely need to experience adolescence so that you can know what it's like to go through all the phases of humanity. Going through middle school is enough to make or break anybody.
You're right. I mean, if I'm gonna do this, I need to do it right and have the full experience.
That's right.
Now, I think I should choose a mother who's wealthy, maybe a member of Roman royalty.
Yeah, no. Oh. Absolutely not. While all of us up here understand what it's like, and that, you know, people who are rich and famous have their problems and dysfunctions just as much as anybody else, everybody don't get that. Right. So I think it'd be best if you come as a simple person through simple means. That way people understand that you're not just the God of the rich and the famous, but you're the God of everybody, you know?
Well, Gabby, you know what? I think you're right. Then instead of being born in Rome or one of the capitals of Africa or Asia, I'll be born in a small village somewhere, some remote backwater of the Roman Empire, some place like, like Bethlehem. How about that?
That works. Now you're getting it.
All right. So, do you think I should be a boy or a girl?
Well, since you got to choose, why don't you be a boy? They're pretty sexist down there. Their Neanderthal mentality hadn't worn off. It's taken forever.
That is too bad. You know, I don't know why people can't just see men and women as equal. Well, I'm down there.
Yeah?
I think I'll see if I could advocate for the equality of all people.
That's a good idea.
But I'll tell you, Gabby, I wish this could wait till the invention of the satellite news networks, you know, and the internet and all that, because that way my story would get much better coverage. I mean, my appearing now in the 1st century, I'm going to have to rely on word of mouth, being passed down between the generations. I mean, it could take centuries to spread my message. And we all know what happens when a message gets spread from person to person like the telephone game.
Well, yeah, I know it's not ideal, but time is of the essence. At the rate that these people are going, they're going to destroy everything by the time we get to it if we don't do something right now.
Well, once I go down there and live as a human being, maybe I'll finally be able to understand what it's like. You know, maybe they'll be able to trust me more and be able to relate to me. Oh, Gabby, this better be worth it.
I think you're on the right track.
Just then, God slips into a portal. He falls down a dark tunnel through space and lands like a spark of magic dust in the ovary of Mary, instantly fertilizing her egg.
I mean, this idea of God coming down to earth, literally walking around in the shoes of human beings, experiencing what it's like, it's a fantastic story when you think about it. That is a truly lovable God who's been here and done that and gotten the t-shirt. A God who's come down to earth, who knows what it's like. Now, on the other hand, if God is always perfect, living up in a perfect heaven, all-powerful, can do anything, have anything that God wants, well, it's a little hard for us to relate to that God. It's a little hard to imagine that God can really relate to us. But a God who actually lived here and experienced the awkwardness of adolescence, the pangs of hunger and desire, the pain of broken friendships and broken relationships, people letting us down. A God who experienced family dysfunction and a corrupt criminal justice system. Now, that's a God that I can relate to. That's a God that I'm more likely to feel safe coming to when I've done something I shouldn't have done or failed to do something I should have done. A God who's felt the pangs of betrayal. It'd be nice to know that God's been through it too and really understood what it's like in this world, what we go through all the time and what we feel. So that's a God I can relate to. But people ask me all the time, you know, if I don't believe that idea of God literally, exactly as if it happened just like that, then how do I make sense of this story and this idea of incarnation figuratively? So for me, the Christmas story about God being born of a woman is a storyteller's way of telling us that God needs humans. God needs us in order to come into the world. In other words, if God represents all the things that we attribute to God, kindness and generosity, compassion and love, Well, it's not as if some God in the clouds can just wave a finger and make someone experience kindness or love or compassion. The only way that kindness or love, compassion, and such things are going to exist in this world is if a person, a real person, embodies those things in action. In other words, a person has to give flesh to kindness, or else kindness cannot be. A person has to reach out with a smile or a hug or a handkerchief. God doesn't just make a handkerchief appear out of thin air when someone's tears start to flow or their nose starts to run. God doesn't have arms to give us a hug or a mouth with which to offer us a smile. One of the messages of this season, then, is for people who don't necessarily take the whole story literally, is that it reminds us that you and I, no matter how humble, no matter how simple, no matter how old or young, you and I are needed in order for God, in order for goodness and mercy and love to come into this world, to be embodied in real life. That's incarnation, the enfleshment of God. I'll end with an example. A man told me one time about a story about he was in the hospital one night. His mother was in critical condition in the intensive care unit. She'd been in there for a few days. And at this point, it was 2 a.m. His mother had not woken up for, I think it was 3 days at this point. And the news did not look encouraging either. He described it as the lowest point in his life. There he was, surrounded by the hospital's fluorescent lights, the sterile institutional smell of such a place, and the impersonal furniture of a hospital room. He was all alone, except for his unconscious mother lying in the bed. And he was sitting in a chair with his head just between his hands, with his elbows on his knees, feeling numb inside. He heard someone enter the room, but he was too tired, too dispirited to even lift his head and look. I mean, nurses have been coming in and out and checking the machines and checking her vital signs and all that. Eventually, a woman who was pushing a broom asked, "Hey, honey, do you mind just lifting your legs so I can finish cleaning up?" And suddenly tears began to flow down his cheeks. The only person who ever called him honey in his entire life was his mom. The cleaning woman stopped when she saw that he was weeping. And she sat down next to him, he said, and she handed him a paper towel so he could wipe his eyes, and she took his hands into hers. They sat there for what he said seemed like 15 minutes. Didn't say a word. And he just cried. And then before getting up and sweeping again, the woman began humming an old church hymn. It wasn't one he knew, but he said he could tell that it was a church song. And then before she left the room, she said, "Don't be afraid." And then she left. Now, the man telling me the story said, there I was, as close to wanting to end my life as I had ever been. And it was as if God arrived wearing drawstring pants and pushing a broom, like a balm that helped heal my soul. That's incarnation. That's God in the flesh. God did not just come into the world in a manger 2,000 years ago. God is born in every act of kindness and justice and love. The question is not, was God incarnated on the earth? The question is whether or not you will incarnate God in this community and your family this season and all the days of your life. Amen.
Oh, little town of Bethlehem, how still we see thee lie. Above thy deep and dreamless sleep, the silent stars go by. Yet in thy dark street shineth the everlasting light. The hopes and fears of all the years are met in thee tonight.
Hey, we're so happy you're visiting with us online today. We love connecting with people all across the country and around the world, sharing our powerful message of love beyond belief.
There's something new happening here. You can now join All Souls as a virtual member. Our virtual membership is designed for friends who live outside of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and who want to engage with All Souls in a meaningful way.
You can be part of an expanding family, a global family really, wherever you are. If you live in Oklahoma,
Ohio,
or Orange County, California,
Canada,
or Cameroon. By becoming a virtual member, you'll be able to deepen your connections with members and friends here in Tulsa and with members wherever you are.
Each week, you'll receive special All Souls content tailored for you, our virtual members. Virtual members have access to pastoral care, to personal prayers, and also receive invitations to exclusive web events.
You can learn more, and if you're ready, you can become a virtual member today by visiting allsoulschurch.org/virtual membership.
We're grateful our ministries are having a positive impact on your life, and we want to share the good news of love beyond belief with more and more people. So no matter what, we need your support to keep this ministry growing and thriving, so please consider making a gift today. You can do so by texting
LOVEBB for Love Beyond Belief to 73256, or simply visit our website. You are a blessing in our lives. May you be blessed
and be a blessing.